Hey guys, welcome back to Another World Audiobooks. So happy to have you here. Can you believe it? This is the second to last chapter. That means we're coming up on the end of The Hollow Needle. Hope you guys have been enjoying this story so far. And if you have, I'd love to hear from you. Please get in touch. I always love to connect with the listeners. Makes my day. I want to hear what book you want to hear next. I've been throwing around a lot of ideas, different things that I'm considering. So if you want to give some feedback, I would love to hear from you on what book you would like to hear next. So get in touch with me at otherworldaudiobooks@gmail.com, or the social medias are all linked in the episode description. So thanks guys for listening. Without further ado, let's jump right into the next chapter of The Hollow Needle. Chapter 9. Open Sesame. The Etretat needle was hollow. Was it a natural phenomenon? An excavation produced by internal cataclysms, or by the imperceptible action of the rushing sea and the soaking rain? Or was it a superhuman work executed by human beings, Gauls, Celts, prehistoric men? These, no doubt, were insoluble questions. And what did it matter? The essence of the thing was contained in this fact: the needle was hollow. At 40 or 50 yards from that imposing arch which is called the Porte d'Arval, and which shoots out from the top of the cliff, like the colossal branch of a tree, to take root in the submerged rocks, stands an immense limestone cone, and this cone is no more than the shell of a pointed cap poised upon the empty waters. A prodigious revelation! After Lupin, here was Boutelet discovering the key to the great riddle that had loomed over more than 20 centuries. A key of supreme importance to whoever possessed it in the days of old, in those distant times when the hordes of barbarians rode through and overran the old world. A magic key that opens the Cyclopean cavern to whole tribes fleeing before the enemy. A mysterious key that guards the door of the most inviolable shelter. An enchanted key that gives power and ensures preponderance. Because he knows this key, Caesar is able to subdue Gaul. Because they know it, the Normans force their sway upon the country, and from there, later, backed by that support, conquer the neighboring island, conquer Sicily, conquer the East, conquer the New World. Masters of the secret, the kings of England lord it over France, humble her, dissemble her, have themselves crowned at Paris. They lose the secret, and the rout begins. Masters of the secret, the kings of France push back and overstep the narrow limits of their dominion, gradually founding a great nation and radiating with glory and power. They forget it, or know not how to use it, and death, exile, ruin follow. An invisible kingdom, in mid-water and at 10 fathoms from land. An unknown fortress, taller than the towers of Notre Dame, and built upon a granite foundation larger than a public square. What strength and what security! From Paris to the sea, by the Seine. There, the Havre, the new town, the necessary town. And 16 miles thence, the Hollow Needle, the impregnable sanctuary. It is a sanctuary, and also a stupendous hiding place. All the treasures of the kings, increasing from century to century, all the gold of France, all that they extort from the people, all that they snatch from the clergy, all the booty gathered on the battlefields of Europe lie heaped up in the royal cave. Old Merovingian gold sous, glittering crown pieces, doubloons, ducats, florins, guineas, and the precious stones and the diamonds. And all the jewels and all the ornaments, everything is there. Who could discover it? Who could ever learn the impenetrable secret of the needle? Nobody. And Lupin becomes that sort of really disproportionate being whom we know, that miracle incapable of explanation so long as the truth remains in the shadow. Infinite though the resources of his genius be, they cannot suffice for the mad struggle which he maintains against society. He needs other, more material resources. He needs a sure place of retreat. He needs the certainty of impunity, the peace that allows of the execution of his plans. Without the Hollow Needle, Lupin is incomprehensible, a myth, a character in a novel, having no connection with reality. Master of the secret, and of such a secret, he becomes simply a man like another, but gifted with the power of wielding in a superior manner the extraordinary weapon with which destiny has endowed him. So, the needle was hollow. It remained to discover how one obtained access to it. From the sea, obviously. There must be, on the side of the offing, some fissure where boats could land at certain hours of the tide. But on the side of the land? Beaudelet lay until 10 o'clock at night, hanging over the precipice, his eyes riveted on the shadowy mass formed by the pyramid, thinking and pondering with all the concentrated effort of his mind. Then he went down to Étretat, selected the cheapest hotel, dined, went up to his room, and unfolded the document. It was the merest child's play to him now to establish its exact meaning. He at once saw that the 3 vowels of the word Étretat occurred in the first line, in their proper order, and at the necessary intervals. This first line now read as follows: E.A.Étretat.A. What words could come before Étretat? Words, no doubt, that referred to the position of the needle with regard to the town. Now, the needle stood on the left, on the west. He ransacked his memory, and recollecting that westerly winds are called vents d'Aval on the coast, and that the nearest port was known as the Port d'Aval, he wrote down En aval d'Étretat. A. The second line was that containing the word demoiselle, and at once seeing, in front of that word, the series of all the vowels that formed part of the word la chambre de, he noted the 2 phrases. En aval d'Étretat, la chambre des demoiselles. The third line gave him more trouble, and it was not until some groping that, remembering the position, near the chambre des demoiselles, of the Fort de Frifossé, he ended by almost completely reconstructing the document. En aval d'Étretat, la chambre des demoiselles, sous le fort de Frifossé, l'Aiguille Cruz. These were the 4 great formulas, the essential and general formulas which you had to know. By means of them, you turned en aval, that is to say, below or west of Étretat, entered the Chambre des Demoiselles, in all probability passed under Fort Frifossé, and thus arrived at the needle. How? By means of the indications and measurements that constituted the 4th line. These were evidently the more special formulas to enable you to find the outlet through which you made your way, and the road that led to the needle. Beaudelet at once presumed, and his surmise was no more than logical consequence of the document, that if there really was a direct communication between the land and the obelisk of the needle, the underground passage must start from the Chambre des Demoiselles, pass under Fort Frifossé, descend perpendicularly the 300 feet of cliff, and by means of a tunnel contrived under the rocks of the sea, end at the hollow needle. Which was the entrance to the underground passage? Did not the 2 letters D and F, so plainly cut, point to it, and admit to it, with the aid perhaps of some ingenious piece of mechanism? The whole of the next morning, Isidore strolled about Étretat and chatted with everybody he met, in order to try and pick up useful information. At last, in the afternoon, he went up the cliff. Disguised as a sailor, he had made himself still younger, and in a pair of trousers too short for him and a fishing jersey, he looked a mere scapegrace of 12 or 13. As soon as he entered the cave, he knelt down before the letters. Here a disappointment awaited him. It was no use his striking them, pushing them, manipulating them in every way. They refused to move. And it was not long, in fact, before he became aware that they were really unable to move, and that, therefore, they controlled no mechanism. And yet they must mean something. Inquiries which he had made in the village went to show that no one had ever been able to explain their existence, and that the Abbé Colchet, in his valuable little book on Étretat, had also tried in vain to solve this little puzzle. The Abbé Colchet seemed to conclude in the end that the 2 letters are the initials of a passer-by. The revelations now made prove the fallacy of the theory. But Isidore knew what the learned Norman archaeologist did not know, namely that the same 2 letters figured in the document, on the line containing the indications. Was it a chance coincidence? Impossible. Well, then? An idea suddenly occurred to him, an idea so reasonable, so simple, that he did not doubt its correctness for a second. Were not that D and that F the initials of the two most important words in the document, the words that represented, together with the needle, the essential stations on the road to be followed, the Chambre des Demoiselles and Fort Frifouset, D for Demoiselle, F for Frifouset? The connection was too remarkable to be a mere accidental fact. In that case, the problem stood thus. The two letters D, F represent the relation that exists between the Chambre des Demoiselles and Fort Frifouset. The single letter D, which begins the line, represents the Demoiselle, that is to say, the cave in which you have to begin by taking up your position, and the single letter F, placed in the middle of the line, represents Frifouset, that is to say, the probable entrance to the underground passage. Between these various signs are two more. First, a sort of irregular rectangle, marked with a stripe in the left bottom corner, and next, the figure 19, signs which obviously indicate to those inside the cave the means of penetrating beneath the fort. The shape of this rectangle puzzled Isidore. Was there around him, on the walls of the cave, or at any rate within the reach of his eyes, an inscription, anything whatever, affecting a rectangular shape? He looked for a long time, and was on the point of abandoning that particular scent when his eyes fell upon the little opening pierced in the rock that acted as a window to the chamber. Now, the edges of this opening just formed a rectangle, corrugated, uneven, clumsy, but still a rectangle, and Beaudelet at once saw that by placing his 2 feet on the D and the F carved in the stone floor, and this explained the stroke that surmounted the 2 letters in the document, he found himself in the exact height of the window. He took up his position in this place and gazed out. The window looked landward, as we know. He saw first the path that connected the cave with the land, a path hung between 2 precipices, and next he caught sight of the foot of the hillock on which the fort stood. To try and see the fort, Beaudelet leaned over to the left, and it was then that he understood the meaning of the curved stripe. The comma that marked left bottom corner in the document. At the bottom of the left-hand side of the window, a piece of flint projected, and the end of it was curved like a claw. It suggested a regular shooter's mark, and when a man applied his eye to the mark, he saw cut out on the slope of the mound facing him a restricted surface of land occupied almost entirely by an old brick wall, a remnant of the original Fort Frifouset, or of the old Roman oppidum built on this spot. Beaudelet ran to this piece of wall, which was perhaps 10 yards long. It was covered with grass and plants. There was no indication of any kind visible. And yet, that figure 19. He returned to the cave, took from his pocket a ball of string and a tape measure, tied the string to the flint corner, fastened a pebble at the 19th meter, and flung it toward the land side. The pebble at most reached the end of the path. "Idiot that I am!" thought Beaudelet. "Who reckoned by meters in those days? The figure 19 means 19 fathoms, or nothing." Translator's note: the toise, or fathom, measured 1.949 meters. Having made the calculation, he ran out the twine, made a knot, and felt about on the piece of wall for the exact and necessary 1 point at which the knot, formed at 37 meters from the window of the Demoiselle, should touch the Frifouset wall. In a few moments, the point of contact was established. With his free hand, he moved aside the leaves of mullein that had grown in the interstices. A cry escaped him. The knot, which he held pressed down with his forefinger, was in the center of a little cross carved in relief on a brick, and the sign that followed on the figure 19 in the document was a cross. It needed all his willpower to control the excitement with which he was overcome. Hurriedly, with convulsive fingers, he clutched the cross, and pressing upon it, turned it as he would have turned the spokes of a wheel. The brick heaved. He redoubled his effort. It moved no further. Then, without turning, he pressed harder. He at once felt the brick give way, and suddenly there was the click of a bolt that is released, the sound of a lock opening, and, on the right of the brick, to the width of about a yard, the wall swung round on a pivot, and revealed the orifice of an underground passage. Like a madman, Beaudelet seized the iron door in which the bricks were sealed, pulled it back violently, and closed it. Astonishment, delight, the fear of being surprised convulsed his face so as to render it unrecognizable. He beheld the awful vision of all that had happened there, in front of that door, during 20 centuries. Of all those people, initiated into the great secret, who had penetrated through that issue. Celts, Gauls, Romans, Normans, Englishmen, Frenchmen, barons, dukes, kings, and, after all of them, Arsene Lupin. And, after Lupin, himself, Beaudelet. He felt that his brain was slipping away from him. His eyelids fluttered. He fell, fainting, and rolled to the bottom of the slope, to the very edge of the precipice. His task was done, at least the task which he was able to accomplish alone, with his unaided resources. That evening he wrote a long letter to the chief of the detective service, giving a faithful account of the results of his investigations, and revealing the secret of the Hollow Needle. He asked for assistance to complete his work, and gave his address. While waiting for the reply, he spent 2 consecutive nights in the Chambre des Demoiselles. He spent them overcome with fear, his nerves shaken with the terror which was increased by the sounds of the night. At every moment he thought he saw shadows approach in his direction. People knew of his presence in the cave. They were coming. They were murdering him. His eyes, however, staring madly before them, sustained by all the power of his will, clung to the piece of wall. On the first night nothing stirred, but on the second, by the light of the stars and a slender crescent moon, he saw the door open and figures emerge from the darkness. He counted 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. It seemed to him that those 5 men were carrying fairly large loads. He followed them for a little way. They cut straight across the fields to the Auvray road. He heard the sound of a motor car driving away. He retraced his steps, skirting a big farm. But at the turn of the road that ran beside it, he had only just time to scramble up a slope and hide behind some trees. More men passed. 4, 5 men, all carrying packages. And 2 minutes later, another motor snorted. This time, he had not the strength to return to his post, and he went back to bed. When he woke and had finished dressing, the hotel waiter brought him a letter. He opened it. It contained Ganimard's card. "At last!" cried Beaudelet, who, after so hard a campaign, was really feeling the need of a comrade in arms. He ran downstairs with outstretched hands. Ganimard took them, looked at him for a moment, and said, "You're a fine fellow, my lad." "Ah," he said, "luck has served me." "There's no such thing as luck with him," declared the inspector, who always spoke of Lupin in a solemn tone, and without mentioning his name. He sat down. "So, we've got him." "Just as we've had him 20 times over," said Beaudelet, laughing. "Yes, but today—" "Today, of course, the case is different. We know his retreat, his stronghold, which means, when all is said, that Lupin is Lupin. He can escape. The Etretat needle cannot." "Why do you suppose that he will escape?" asked Ganimard anxiously. "Why do you suppose that he requires to escape?" replied Beaudelet. "There is nothing to prove that he is in the needle at present. Last night 11 of his men left it. He may be one of the 11. Ganimard reflected. "You are right. The great thing is the Hollow Needle. For the rest, let us hope that chance will favor us. And now, let us talk." He resumed his serious voice, his self-important air, and said, "My dear Beaudelet, I have orders to recommend you to observe the most absolute discretion in regard to this matter." "Orders from whom?" asked Beaudelet jestingly. "The prefect of police?" "Higher than that." "The Prime Minister?" "Higher." "What?" Ganimard lowered his voice. "Beaudelet, I was at Élysée last night. They look upon this matter as a state secret of the utmost gravity. There are serious reasons for concealing the existence of this citadel, reasons of military strategy in particular. It might become a revictualling center, a magazine for new explosives, for lately invented projectiles, for anything of that sort. The secret arsenal of France, in fact." "But how can they hope to keep a secret like this? In the old days, one man alone held it, the king. Today, already, there are a good few of us who know it, without counting Lupin's gang.
Still, if we gained only 10 years, only 5 years silence, those 5 years may be the saving of us.
But in order to capture this citadel, this future arsenal, it will have to be attacked. Lupin must be dislodged, and all this cannot be done without noise.
Of course, people will guess something, but they won't know. Besides, we can but try.
All right. What's your plan?
Here it is in 2 words. To begin with, you are not Isidore Boutelet, and there's no question of Arsene Lupin either. You are, and you remain, a small boy of Etretat, who, while strolling about the place, caught some fellows coming out of an underground passage. This makes you suspect the existence of a flight of steps which cuts through the cliff from top to bottom.
Yes, there are several of those flights of steps along the coast. For instance, to the right of Etretat, opposite Benouville, they showed me the Devil's Staircase, which every bather knows, and I say nothing of the 3 or 4 tunnels used by the fishermen.
So, you will guide me and one half of my men. I shall enter alone or accompanied, that remains to be seen. This much is certain, that the attack must be delivered that way. If Lupin is not in the Needle, we shall fix up a trap in which he will be caught sooner or later, if he is there.
If he is there, he will escape from the Needle by the other side, the side overlooking the sea.
In that case, he will at once be arrested by the other half of my men.
Yes, but if, as I presume, you choose a moment when the sea is at low ebb, leaving the base of the Needle uncovered, the chase will be public, because it will take place before all the men and women fishing for mussels, shrimps, and shellfish who swarm on the rocks round about.
That is why I just mean to select the time when the sea is full.
In that case, he will make off in a boat.
Ah, but I shall have a dozen fishing smacks, each of which will be commanded by one of my men, and we shall collar him.
If he doesn't slip through your dozen smacks like a fish through the meshes.
All right, then I'll sink him.
The devil you will! Shall you have guns?
Why, of course. There's a torpedo boat at the Havre at this moment. A telegram from me will bring her to the Needle at the appointed hour.
How proud Lupin will be. A torpedo boat. Well, Monsieur Ganimard, I see that you have provided for everything. We have only to go ahead. When do we deliver the assault?
Tomorrow.
At night?
No, by daylight, at the flood tide, as the clock strikes 10 in the morning.
Capital. Under his show of gaiety, Boutelet concealed a real anguish of mind. He did not sleep until the morning, but lay pondering over the most impracticable schemes, one after the other. Ganimard had left him in order to go to Ypres, 6 or 7 miles from Etretat, where, for prudence sake, he had told his men to meet him, and where he chartered 12 fishing smacks with the ostensible object of taking soundings along the coast. At 9:45, escorted by a body of 12 stalwart men, he met Isidore at the foot of the road that goes up the cliff. At 10 o'clock exactly, they reached the skirt of the wall. It was the decisive moment. At 10 o'clock exactly.
"Why, what's the matter with you, Boutelet?" jeered Ganimard. "You're quite green in the face."
"It's as well you can't see yourself, Ganimard," the boy retorted. "One would think your last hour had come." They both had to sit down, and Ganimard swallowed a few mouthfuls of rum.
"It's not funk," he said. "But by Jove, this is an exciting business. Each time that I'm on the point of catching him, it takes me like that in the pit of the stomach. A dram of rum?"
"No."
"And if you drop behind?"
"That will mean that I'm dead."
However, we'll see. And now, open sesame. No danger of our being observed, I suppose?"
"No, the Needle is not so high as the cliff, and besides, there's a bend in the ground where we are." Boutelet went to the wall and pressed upon the brick. The bolt was released, and the underground passage came in sight. By the gleam of the lanterns which they lit, they saw that it was cut in the shape of a vault, and that both the vaulting and the floor itself were entirely covered with bricks. They walked for a few seconds, and suddenly a staircase appeared. Boutelet counted 45 brick steps, which the slow action of many footsteps had worn away in the middle.
"Blow!" said Ganimard, holding his head and stopping suddenly, as though he had knocked against something.
What is it?
A door.
Bother,
muttered Beaudelet, looking at it.
And not an easy one to break down either. It's just a solid block of iron.
We are done, said Ganimard. There's not even a lock to it.
Exactly. That's what gives me hope.
Why?
A door is made to open, and as this one has no lock, that means that there is a secret way of opening it.
And as we don't know the secret?
I shall know it in a minute.
Oh.
By means of the document. The fourth line has no other object but to solve each difficulty as and when it crops up, and the solution is comparatively easy, because it's not written with a view to throwing searchers off the scent, but to assisting them.
Comparatively easy? I don't agree with you, cried Ganimard, who had unfolded the document. The number 44, and the triangle with a dot in it, that doesn't tell us much.
Yes, it does. Look at the door. You see it's strengthened at each corner with a triangular slab of iron, and the slabs are fixed with big nails. Take the left-hand bottom slab and work the nail in the corner. I'll lay 10 to 1 we've hit the mark.
You've lost your bet, said Ganimard after trying.
Then the figure 44 must mean...
In a low voice, reflecting as he spoke, Beaudelet continued.
Let me see. Ganimard and I are both standing on the bottom step of the staircase. There are 45. Why 45 when the figure in the document is 44? A coincidence? No. In all this business, there is no such thing as a coincidence, at least not an involuntary one. Ganimard, be so good as to move 1 step higher up. That's it. Don't leave this 44 step. And now I will work the iron nail. And the trick's done, or I'll eat my boots.
The heavy door turned on its hinges. A fairly spacious cavern appeared before their eyes.
We must be exactly under Fort Frifoussé,
said Beaudelet.
We have passed through the different earthy layers by now. There will be no more brick. We are in the heart of the solid limestone.
The room was dimly lit by a shaft of daylight that came from the other end. Going up to it, they saw that it was a fissure in the cliff, contrived in a projecting wall, and forming a sort of observatory. In front of them, at a distance of 50 yards, the impressive mass of the Needle loomed from the waves. On the right, quite close, was the arched buttress of the Porte d'Arval, and on the left, very far away, closing the graceful curve of the large inlet, another rocky gateway, more imposing still, was cut out of the cliff. The manor-port, which was so wide and tall that a 3-master could have passed through it with all sails set. Behind and everywhere, the sea.
I don't see our little fleet,
said Beaudelet. I know, said Ganimard. The Porte d'Arval hides the whole of the coast of Etretat and Ypres. But look, over there, in the offing, that black line, level with the water.
Well?
That's our fleet of war, torpedo boat number 25. With her there, Lupin is welcome to break loose, if he wants to study the landscape at the bottom of the sea. A baluster marked the entrance to the staircase, near the fissure. They started on their way down. From time to time, a little window pierced the wall of the cliff, and each time they caught sight of the Needle, whose mass seemed to them to grow more and more colossal. A little before reaching high water level, the windows ceased, and all was dark. Isidore counted the steps aloud. At the 358, they emerged into a wider passage, which was barred by another iron door, strengthened with slabs and nails.
We know all about this,
said Beaudelet.
The document gives us 357 and a triangle dotted at the right place. We have only to repeat the performance.
The second door obeyed like the first. A very long tunnel appeared, lit up at intervals by the gleam of a lantern swung from the vault. The walls oozed moisture, and drops of water fell to the ground, so that, to make walking easier, a regular pavement of planks had been laid from end to end.
We are passing under the sea,
said Beaudelet.
Are you coming, Ganimard?
Without replying, the inspector ventured into the tunnel, followed the wooden footplank, and stopped before a lantern, which he took down. The utensils may date back to the Middle Ages, but the lighting is modern, he said. Our friends use incandescent lanterns. He continued his way. The tunnel ended in another and a larger cave, with, on the opposite side, the first steps of a staircase that led upward. It's the ascent of the Needle beginning,
said Ganimard.
"This is more serious."
But one of his men called him.
"There's another flight here, sir, on the left."
And immediately afterward they discovered a third on the right.
"The deuce,"
muttered the inspector.
"This complicates matters. If we go by this way, they'll make tracks by that."
"Shall we separate?" asked Beaudelet.
No, that would mean weakening ourselves. It would be better for one of us to go ahead and scout."
"I will, if you like."
"Very well, Beaudelet, you go. I will remain with my men. Then there will be no fear of anything. There may be other roads to the cliff than that by which we came, and several roads also through the Needle, but it is certain that between the cliff and the Needle there is no communication except a tunnel. Therefore, they must pass through this cave, and so I shall stay here till you come back. Go ahead, Beaudelet, and be prudent. At the least alarm, scoot back again."
Isidore disappeared briskly up the middle staircase. At the 30th step, a door, an ordinary wooden door, stopped him. He seized the handle, turned it. The door was not locked. He entered a room that seemed to him very low owing to its immense size. Lit by powerful lamps and supported by squat pillars, with long vistas showing between them, it had nearly the same dimensions as the Needle itself. It was crammed with packing cases and miscellaneous objects, pieces of furniture, oak settees, chests, credence tables, strong boxes, a whole confused heap of the kind which one sees in the basement of an old curiosity shop. On his right and left, Beaudelet perceived the wells of 2 staircases, the same, no doubt, that started from the cave below. He could easily have gone down, therefore, and told Ganimard, but a new flight of stairs led upward in front of him, and he had the curiosity to pursue his investigations alone. 30 more steps, a door, and then a room, not quite so large as the last, Beaudelet thought, and again opposite him an ascending flight of stairs. 30 more steps, a door, a smaller room. Beaudelet grasped the plan of works executed inside the Needle. It was a series of rooms placed one above the other, and therefore gradually decreasing in size. They all served as storerooms. In the 4th, there was no lamp. A little light filtered in through clefts in the walls, and Beaudelet saw the sea some 30 feet below him. At that moment, he felt himself so far from Ganimard that a certain anguish began to take hold of him, and he had to master his nerves lest he should take to his heels. No danger threatened him, however, and the silence around him was even so great that he asked himself whether the whole Needle had not been abandoned by Lupin and his confederates. "I shall not go beyond the next floor," he said to himself. 30 stairs again, and a door. This door was lighter in construction and modern in appearance. He pushed it open gently, quite prepared for flight. There was no one there, but the room differed from the others in its purpose. There were hangings on the walls, rugs on the floor. 2 magnificent sideboards, laden with gold and silver plate, stood facing each other. The little windows contrived in the deep, narrow cleft were furnished with glass panes. In the middle of the room was a richly decked table with a lace-edged cloth, dishes of fruits and cakes, champagne in decanters and flowers, heaps of flowers. 3 places were laid around the table. Beaudelet walked up. On the napkins were cards with the names of the party. He read first, Arsene Lupin. Mademoiselle Arsene Lupin. He took up the 3rd card and started back with surprise. It bore his own name. Isidore Beaudelet. That's right, second to last chapter is done. That means next week is the final chapter of the Hollow Needle. So excited to get it out there. I did want to mention that I have been doing pretty well at getting episodes out early for patrons. So if you are a patron, you've been getting these episodes several days early compared to the normal folk out there. So if you want to become a patron and get early access to episodes as well as a bunch of other perks, make sure to check that out. Go to anotherworldaudiobooks.com. You can click on Become a Patron, and it gives you all the details and different levels to sign up and all that sort of thing. So thank you to our patrons who make this show possible. We could not do it without you. So grateful for everyone who contributes, and thank you for doing that. And hopefully putting out episodes early is a good way to thank you as well. And if you want to become a patron and get episodes early, that is a great way to do it. So thanks guys for listening, and we'll catch you next week for the final conclusion, the finale, the wrap-up of The Hollow Needle.
What I bought? A new Blink Mini 2K Plus smart security camera. What I got? 2K clarity sharp enough to see every detail of home when I'm away. Plus audio like I'm in the room, not with my bestie traveling to another city. Plus easy plug-in setup to install faster than skipping through podcast ads. But you'd never skip ads, right? Plus, I got all of this for just $49.99. Blink Mini 2K Plus. Mini camera, max performance. Shop now at amazon.com/blink.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday, because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Your planet is now marked for death.
Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four First Steps is now streaming on Disney+.
We will protect you.
As a family.
Light him up, Johnny!
Marvel's First Family is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
That is fantastic.
And critics say it's one of the best superhero movies of all time. Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four First Steps, now streaming on Disney+. Rated PG-13.
What time is it, Ben? It's clobber time!
We are officially heading into Thanksgiving season, which back in the day when we were growing up was a time to take pride in our American history. But nowadays, what kids are being taught is very different. That's why I love America's History by Tuttle Twins. Grab the family starter pack because it covers those pilgrims who came over here in a way that's not going to poison your children's minds and will actually make them thankful for this wonderful gift that we have been given. Pick up America's History and the whole starter pack at TuttleTwins.com.
The best HR leaders aren't chasing the latest AI trends. They're guiding their people through them. Because when change is a constant, it's people who keep companies moving forward. And right now, engagement and productivity are being tested like never before. That's where the Predictive Index comes in. For over 70 years, PI has helped HR teams turn people data into a strategic advantage, building company cultures that thrive through change. Visit predictiveindex.com to see how